Lately, increasing number of players try to go with black in a very early stage into the end game by playing e4, d6, d4, knight f6, and after knight to c3, play e5. Actually, they are not forcing going to the end game. They're kind of inviting white to go to the end game after d takes e, and queen takes d8. Now, that's not something is recommended in modern chess theory, but what should you do if this happens? Well, there are two ways to approach this. First of all, you can go to the regular Philidor defense by playing knight f3, knight d7, bishop c4, bishop e7, and transposing to very well known position Philidor defense, and we are not going to go into it now. This is one choice you have, but in case you have a preference for endgame type of positions with slight but solid advantage, I would recommend, and I like myself, d takes e, queen takes d8, king takes d8, and bishop to c4, attacking f7 pawn. And normally, whoever plays this system, they play with bishop e6, bishop takes e6, f takes e. I cannot recommend anyone to play this kind of pawn structure. That's not a healthy pawn structure. Well, I would go bishop e3, bishop d6, f3. Now, by playing f3, you're freeing your c3 knight. And black would go knight c6. And how would you play this position? Of course, this is not the position that can be analyzed because there will be no contact of pieces for a while, and all I can recommend you is the plan here. How to place white pieces. Now, I would make only white moves. I would go knight h3, king to e2, and rook to d1, either rook to d1, probably a rook to d1, then go knight b1 and knight d2. Now, let's try to make it in the move order. Knight c6, I go knight h3. Suppose black goes king e7, I go knight f2, black goes a6. Now, you are not playing this for black, so people that do play for black, that's how they play. And then go b5, b4. The important thing here, don't touch any of the pawns on the queen side. Go king e2. Now, black goes rook b8 normally, and then they go a5 and a4. Now go rook d1. And after a5, you go knight to b1. What he wants to do, actually, knight b1, it may be a little too early because he can go knight b4. But you can go rook d2 or rook d1, or just try to go knight d3 and knight c5. Make sure you don't make any weaknesses on the king side, on the queen side, and just play knight d3, knight c5. You make sure your knights have some squares to go to. Now, as I can point to you, knight on f6 does not really have any future. Bishop on d6, mostly protecting the e5 pawn. Knight on c6 is the relatively active piece that can go to b4, which does nothing to, at this point. We can go rook d2 and rook d1. You should not expect very big advantage in the opening. You cannot exchange queens on move 3 or 4 and expect big advantage, but you definitely guaranteed better position, better pawn structure, and some clear plan for this early endgame position. Well, one other thing about this Pirc defense that can transpose to different opening. A lot of times people, and I do myself too sometimes, they play slightly moderated Pirc defense. E4, d6, d4, knight f6, knight c3, and they try to delay g6 or not play g6 at all. They try to go c6. Now, what is the move c6 for? What they trying to do? They try us to play knight f3, and then they go bishop g4. And after we develop, they go